is an online session for the MOOCs course on engineering psychology. This session is meant for an online interaction with the learners, you, and the subject matter expert, me, so that we can get acquainted with each other. It's also meant as a platform to address your questions, your queries, your feedbacks, and your suggestions regarding this course. Now, I believe the course has just started and it's a couple of weeks that has elapsed since the start of this course. You are already enjoying the course matter. This session will be more or less as a discussion between the two of us, you, the learner, and me, the person providing you knowledge regarding engineering psychology. I'll take up your questions, and with the limited knowledge that I have in this field of psychology and engineering psychology, I'll try and provide answers to satisfy your query. There are multiple ways through which you can ask a question. You can put the question on the chat box of this team meeting that we are presently running. There is a parallel YouTube session which is going on, and you can write your question on the comment section, the live chat section, of this chat box of YouTube, and I'll take up those questions and I can answer those questions for you. Some questions have been sent to me through the online doc file, which was floated a couple of days earlier for you to put your questions. So these are the three ways that you can ask questions to me. If you miss any of this way or miss this interaction, you need not worry. You can always put your question to me through the online forum. And if none of them work and you're not satisfied with the answer which has been provided to your question, you can send in an email to me directly. The email is provided at the course website, and I can then start answering questions for you. Now, the email response, which is personal, will take some time, as and when I find time, I will respond to your personal query and question that has been sent to me through the email. So let's then get started and start answering your questions. The very first question comes to me from KG Krishna, and it says that there are various CS IT courses titled usability engineering, human factors, user experience, design, etc. I find there is a similarity and feel all these are based on engineering psychology. Am I correct, sir? Partially, you are correct. All these names come from the common idea that floated after World War II, where a need for design engineering came in. People found out, or manufacturers found out, that no longer were consumers going to buy whatever was offered to them. And so the consumer became the king. Also, they found out that instead of changing the consumer or fitting the consumer to the product, a better idea would be to fit the product to the consumer. And therein the birth of human engineering, human factor, usability engineering, engineering psychology came along. Now, on the surface of it, most of these seems as same, but then there are very subtle differences. And these differences in terms of the point of view or the perspective these courses take. Some of these are purely engineering courses, or they take an engineering point of view. For example, design engineering is part of mechanical engineering. And some of these courses take a more physiological view, studying the biomechanics and other biological framework to how product should be fit to the consumer. A couple of them has a design perspective, as in how designers or UI UX designers should help in designing interfaces. And all of them are bound by one common theme, that is the psychological principle. Since psychology is the study of human behavior or how humans respond, the underlying science in all these terms that you've used is psychology. So engineering psychology would look into how to look at the product features, to look at the consumer features, as in what are the pros and cons of the consumers, what are the goods and bads, or the psychology of the consumer, look at the pros and cons of the product, and try and find the best fit for a happy marriage between them. This is the idea behind designing this course. So on the surface of it, all of them sound similar, but they differ in terms of the perspective. So the first question that has come to me on this YouTube chat box is from Adarsh. And the question is, will the course be relevant to artificial intelligence student? Partly yes, because then you will come to know after reading this course what are the requirements that a machine should have so that it becomes the best friend of a user. And that way, you'll get some insight on how to make your artificial intelligence system and to train it. So yes, there will be an overlap and it will be relevant. But then the relevance has to be sought from your side. There wouldn't be a very open relevance, as in terms of a very apparent relevance, but there will be relevance, and this relevance is something that you have to find out. Govind has a question. I'm a cognitive science aspirant. Will the modules in this course be useful in building foundations towards cognitive science? Partly yes. Some of the concepts that will be used in this particular course comes from the idea of how cognitive science works. But not everything that cognitive science has, or a course on cognitive science has been put into this course. Since this course is very focused onto looking at those aspects or those engineering aspects that should be tinkered along, that should be manipulated to fit it with the cognitive capabilities or with the capabilities of humans, the focus is in finding match. It wouldn't be in terms of studying the cognitive process of humans. Rather, it would be the applied part of it. By looking at what are the cognitive processes and how does human cognition work, we try to use those techniques, methods, and knowledge and try and fit onto machines. So yes, again, there will be some foundational building, but not in a very gigantic way. Sakshi has a question. Would engineering psychology only work on designing material things like devices, etc. for consumer? It could be, mostly engineering psychology is about designing systems. It could be any system. It could be a system that you can touch, or it could be a system which is more abstract. As again, I'm explaining it. Engineering psychology is about finding out how people and systems interact, right? And this system could be anything. It need not be a very big machine that we are thinking of. It could be something at a much lower level, a hypothetical system, an abstract system. For example, a system of how to sell something. That also can be engineered. Now, a good example would be designing interfaces on how to present things, or looking at how humans perceive or how humans read on an electronic device or an electronic screen, and based on that designing a system which can help them in efficient decision making. A good example could be choosing between a number of alternatives while buying your pizza through an electronic screen. So that could be also a subset of engineering psychology, a sub question of engineering psychology. So yeah, in a way, technical systems. So Smiley has a question, and that question is, I'm a psychology student. Will I be able to follow the course, as I don't know much about engineering and was curious to know that innovations made in relation to psychology engineering? Well, don't worry. We are not doing any engineering there. Don't go after the word engineering. Engineering just means fitting in the sense of the course. Engineering means changing things or making use of knowledge that we have from psychology in such a way that systems are better adapted to their owners, right? The field of engineering, what does it do? It takes in theories from the natural sciences and applies them. In a similar way, engineering psychology is about using psychological theories or applying psychological theories into systems. Why? So that the systems get better adapted, or so the systems better fit to the person who's using them. That is the basis of this course. And that is why if you look at the first question from Krishna, which says about usability, engineering, human factors, all these terms come under this. So don't worry, we're not going to use any engineering terms, or we're not going to use any engineering principles. We're going to use engineering, the word, in a literal manner, which is basically using engineering, or rather applying engineering principles of psychology in such a way that it solves people's problem. Krishna has a question. The best recent example is designing aircraft cockpit systems to align with human limitations of the pilot, so the errors are minimized. You are absolutely right, Krishna. This is one of the best example. But then, even with the redesign of the cockpit or the design of the cockpit in such a way that it is very apparent, accidents do happen. The role or the goal of engineering psychology is to study what can go wrong and to train systems in such a way that they not only predict what can go wrong, but when things go wrong, how do they provide solutions to people who are working with those systems. For example, in the very recent example where there's this crash, airline crash, where both the engines were turned off, and I'm not going into the controversy there, but let's assume that for 1 minute, and I'm saying assume with an emphasis on this, that somehow both the engines were switched off and they were switched on. Obviously, there'll be a time gap, and within this time gap, there'll be an accident. A good way of redesigning this system could be using some kind of a manual resistance when the second engine is being switched off. Now, this manual resistance that you see in most games could subtly provide those cues to the person who is unknowingly or unconsciously switching off both the engine that something is wrong. And in whatever phase he is, or whatever unconsciousness he is, or whatever mind-wandering state he is, he'll come back to think about that something he's doing is not correct. And that way, that could have been prevented. Somehow both the engines got switched off. Again, I'm not going into how it happened, but then the system should be designed in such a way that the second engine, only after certain efforts or certain warnings, should go or in off mode. This could be a good example of how to prevent these kind of accidents in future. Now, if you're listening to me either on this Teams chat or on the YouTube chat, and if you are joined with me, and if you have questions, suggestions, or some kind of feedback, please go ahead and start writing those questions. I can try and help you with the limited knowledge that I have about the systems, about this psychology. I can try and solve or provide solutions to your questions, or maybe guide you into something that you wish to be guided on. Now, let's move to some of the questions which has come to me on through the response forms. And the first question that I have here is coming from Pratika Jain. It says that what should we follow, like materials, books, any practical practice with the course to get more knowledge about the course? What can I do rather than taking only lectures? And the provided transcripts. Beside that, there are some books that I have named in the course website. If possible, could try reading these books. If that's not feasible, you can probably go to Google, find out original research papers, or find out some kind of authorized source which provides you some information regarding the topics that are being discussed in the lectures. Besides that, you can always depend upon the assignments. If you do the assignments in a timely fashion, in a genuine way, you will be able to learn more and get very good marks in your exam. Now, the second question is with Guntas Singh, and it's a wonderful question. And the question says that many hardware and software are manufactured with weak build qualities and incompatible parts. Example, some laptops, screws and hinges easily break while trying to open a third time. The iPhone gets slow when a new version releases, etc., etc. The question is, why are such choices made while engineering when you can obviously make an improved and better product? Is it really capitalism? Thank you for your reading. Guntas, yes, you have hit the nail on the head. The reason why this sort of things are done is to sell products. If you compare two iPhones or two versions of Android, there are not much differences. In terms of at least the hardware part, there are not enough differences. Even if there are differences, these differences would not mean much to you. So a 90 Hertz refresh rate and 120 Hertz refresh rate, how would they differ? And how would that difference be different to you? A 8K, a 12K, a 14K resolution. Your eyes are not trained to watch these resolution or these high resolutions. This is just a way of capitalism. Big companies like Google and Apple, they make modifications in the software or through software update, so the system slows down. This is just the way to make people buy newer things. One thing that they don't realize is that this is leading to two problems. One, expectations of consumers are increasing. And with that, a lot of confusion comes about. So if you have a Snapdragon 8 Gen 4 chipset and an Elite chipset, or if you have a i9 and i14 or i10 processor, this can provide you with the power, but the computing has to be done from your side. And most computers or most people who use computers don't even use the full power. There are a lot of things which are given in your phones, which you have no idea what they do. Most people don't even use them. But then it is there, and we get satisfied with the fact that it is there in your phone, and someday you'll be using it. It is just a way to attract the consumer with extra features. Everybody wants extra, and these extra features or this idea is the basis behind capitalism. It has nothing to do with engineering. If you look at older products, the products which probably your grandfathers would have, they would have survived the time. Because at that point of time, they were rational consumers. The money was less, and people wanted things which could last. Nowadays, there's a lot of money, and people want flashy newer things, and that's the reason why they do it slow. So I think that answers your question to both of you. If you are one of those people hearing to me, and if you have a question, please go ahead and ask those, and I'll be happy to answer them. So Krishna has a view, and it says that Apple iPhones are never designed with two SIMs or additional SD card slots for the reason that humans tend to get confused or make mistakes in loading SD card, breaking the tray, etc. while opening. The objective being minimize such opportunities for possible mistakes by people. I feel they follow this human psychology in all their designs. They do, but one of the most dangerous company is Apple. You should be aware of that. They're just killing competition by not allowing you to have two SIMs. And especially in countries abroad, these phones are always tied up to a network. They're network bind. So the idea of one SIM bound to one phone comes from a Western concepts. The idea of two SIMs or three SIMs, they come from the eastern part of the world, where you're free to make a choice. And when you're free to make a choice, people can get better deals. what Apples would do, or what an Apple phone would do, is that they will force you to have one SIM. So on one part, the design part, they're very good. But then what they're doing is, what they're offering you in design is that they're taking away in terms of the hardware. So with the same A16 chipset, which is, I don't think very comparable to the Snapdragon chipsets in terms of the clock speed or in terms of how they process. They're selling you expensive phones. So yes, design-wise, they're doing good, and that's why they're selling. But then in terms of the capitalists, they are the highest possible capitalists that they could be. So that they are doing good in terms of design, and that's the reason they are selling. Most other Chinese companies, what they're doing is they don't care for designs. They're not focusing on designs. And that may be one of the reasons why the phones are not selling. Also, one of the things that Apple and Google does is a clutter-free environment. If you look at an Apple or a Google phone, a Pixel, they don't change much over generations. But then if you look at some of these Chinese phones, they have a lot of things, a lot of opportunities, a lot of extra things. And this creates confusion. This creates kinds of indecision within consumers and lowers the trust. So yes, Apple is doing everything right in terms of using the human psychology or human engineering into progressing their product. So I hope that answers your question, Krishna. If you are there and if you have questions or suggestions and you're listening to me, please ask those questions or suggestions. I'm here for the next 30 odd minutes to answer your questions. If you have questions, please go ahead. If you have a suggestion, please go ahead. I'll be happy to answer your questions and provide you with some knowledge which can help you understand this engineering psychology in a better way. How psychology plays a role in engineering. How do they implement psychology in engineering? Good question. What is engineering? Engineering is applying the rules of natural sciences. Psychology is a natural science, a part of natural science, not exactly a natural science, but it's a brain science. If you look at Western universities, it is clubbed under cognitive sciences and brain sciences. So using the principles of psychology, using the principles, limitations and capabilities of the consumer into designing systems is what engineering psychology is all about. An example is, if I'm making let's say I'm making a car window. What can I do so that the car window can be comfortable for the driver and it doesn't divert too much of its attention and it puts lesser load on its cognitive system? What I can do is I can design a car window in such a way that it reads it has some kind of a sensor, or it has some kind of a mechanism which can read what the human wants. So by just action of lowering your hand or making your hand go up, it can probably lower or raise the glass of the window or some other thing related to that. So this way, what could happen is I can use the capabilities of a human in terms of the memory, in terms of the thinking, in terms of the problem solving skills, and use this into designing systems which can have those things which humans don't have and which can sort of give away or sort of not have those things which humans have, and then they could be a better match. So a machine should not be totally opposing a human, rather it should be a complement to a human. Others has a question, do we have case studies in the course? No, we don't have case studies in the course. Others. Now Krishna has a question. There was a time when Chinese phones had 4 SIMs, additional features like radio, watching TV, torchlight, etc., etc. Now they are also failing for design and changing this strategy. Exactly. Too much to offer, too many choices creates too many confusions, and through using the idea that human brains can only comfortably process limited amount of information and need limited amount of choices, these companies learned it the hard way that they should not have so many options. Sakshi has a question. What is the score of engineering psychologists? Scope of engineering psychology, I'm sorry. Will consumer psychology fall under it or vice versa? The scope of engineering psychologists is they can work with manufacturing teams. They can work with people who design systems or manufacture machines or big machines for humans. Consumer psychology is the soft part of it. The hard part of it has to do with engineering psychology. The soft part of it has to do with consumer psychology. So once the machine is made, once the machine has been successfully produced, and the machine has all the capability of offering its services to humans, consumer psychologists can come in and then help or complement engineering psychologists in selling this product. Consumer psychologists can also provide information to engineering psychologists as to what consumers want. So given the fact that I know the capability of a human, but then this is not what most consumers want. So consumer psychologists can provide this input to an engineering psychologist, and engineering psychologists can pass on these to the engineers who can design systems. Let me think of an example. So let's say I'm thinking of a machine which can I'm thinking of a packet of biscuits. Now, a packet of biscuits, how that should be that should be made or that should be designed. The engineering psychologists would say that it should be designed in such a way that people should be able to open it fast and should be able to consume it with minimum losses. And for that, there's a lot of way of packaging where you can open it with one hand and can design the packet in such a way that one biscuit at a time comes out of it. What social psychologists would provide information is that what should be put on the packet, or what should the packaging be, so that people choose these biscuits or one biscuit over the other. Another information that consumer psychologists could provide is in terms of where they should be placed. What type of biscuits should be made? Whether something other than the biscuit should be provided so that they can complement each other and sell as a whole. So things related to the market and consumer choices will be provided by consumer psychologists, and engineering psychologists could look at the needs of the consumer. So yes, in a way, they're interactive or they're overlapping, but then they also complement each other. What are the additional skills? Annie has a question. What are the additional skill topics that I need to know to maximize my learning or open more opportunities? One skill that you should have with engineering psychology is the skill of understanding cognitive psychology or understanding cognition. If you understand human cognition or how human cognition works and a little bit of idea about human biology, both of them can provide you wonderful opportunities into the field of engineering psychology, because when dealing with engineering psychology, we not only look at cognitive capabilities, but also physical capabilities of humans. So physically what is possible, and also cognitively what is possible, and combine them together and make them or blend it into a machine, and the machine human system survives the test of time. So if you can focus yourself a little bit on the cognitive part of the psychology and the physiological part of psychology, both of them will provide you enough knowledge, and more than enough knowledge, to help you in gaining or maximizing your learning in engineering psychology. Krishna has a viewpoint. For example, today we do not have any smartphone designed for senior citizens above 70 years with decline of vision and touch and hearing. You're absolutely right. With 70 years and above, the smartphones are not there for them. Or system should be such that by looking at lighting condition, it should increase or decrease the font. The memory should be such on the phone that it should remember most of the things and give prompts to the user. It should be able to tolerate errors and tolerate more stupid errors or more motor errors, right? Nowadays, what happens is if you touch something, the touch phones are made in such a way that something wrong is touched, it will disappear. And most elders, they have this motor capability or this motor loss. So the system should be designed, the screen should be designed in such a way that it should be tolerating more errors. At least asking them twice or thrice whether you want to remove this thing or not, or you designedly make this thing or not, or tolerate these errors. If you design systems like this, which tolerate the loss of capacity of elders, this type of a screen would be much better and would sell much to people who are elders. So I hope that answers your question, Krishna. Other people who are with me, I have some 10 odd minutes left for this session. If you have questions, please ask those questions, and I'm happy to answer those questions for you. But if you have questions and if you're not able to put those questions in today's session, there will be a next lecture. That's the question that Guntas is asked. When is the next lecture? The next lecture will be very soon announced. They will, and the NPTEL team will soon announce. So you can ask your questions in the next session or the next lecture. That's one thing. But if you missed today's lecture and you still think that there's a question, or there are questions that you think you need answers to, or you feel I can provide an answer to them, you can put those questions onto the forum. I will check the forum and I'll answer those questions, or somebody from my team will answer those questions for you. If you think that you missed the forum also, you can send in a question to me personally. What I can do is I can read those questions and answer them to go on with. I can answer the question. Krishna has a question. I bought Don Norman's book on psychology of everyday things. He's considered as the father of engineering psychology. Don Norman was a cognitive psychologist. The father bit, I'm not very sure, but yes, he is one of the experts in the field. There's also something related to the emotion of everyday things as a newer book of Don Norman. And so he talks about all those systems which should not exist, or what kind of systems are there. So Krishna, if you have bought this book, it's a very good book. Read those, read this book. Read, there's a Don Norman book on cognitive psychology as well. If you can read that book, that's also a wonderful thing. And so you can keep on reading this book, these books by Don Norman. Another the emotional things. I'm not very sure what the book says, but it is the design of emotional design or something like that, with the same author, and that also is a wonderful book to read. Emotional design, yes. That's a wonderful book to read. So read that, and there'll be other people also in this field that are For example, there is Schindler. I forgot the name, it's not coming to me right now, but then there are other people also in this field who do work in this field, and that's wonderful. So there's a question by Aman and say there's so many brands are still trying to make a smartphone for senior citizens, but still they fail. So how psychology fails here? When a brand tries to make, what really happens in understanding the consumer process is that these brands are profit oriented. Very few of them actually go to senior citizens and find out what are the problems. They design these phones on tables, which are somewhere in the laboratory, somewhere in the research area. They never actually talk to the actual consumers and find out the problem, and that is why they fail. Even if they talk to a couple of people, and I believe they don't even talk to senior citizens. So if you are one of those brands, or if you want to start a startup for making phones for senior citizens, if let's say that if that is what you want to do, first go and interview these people, find out their actual problems. If you don't interact with these people and find out their problems, you'll never be able to design a system which addresses problem to addresses problem of the real people. That is where the whole deal is. Now, these people who are trying to make these smartphones, they don't follow these rules, and that is why it is failing. But I believe that if you need my help, I can provide you with that. If you actually talk to these people, find out their problems, whether it is physical, psychological, emotional, what kind of problems do these old people feel, you will be able to design better smartphones for these people, and they'll thank you for that, and you'll have a wonderful market for that. So all you need to do is to go to the actual consumer, talk to them, and find out the exact problem or the problem which is around which you will center your question. So people who are here, who have joined me, and if you have questions, please ask those questions to me. I'll try and answer those questions for you. All of you have been asking your questions, and that's wonderful. This is just the first interaction that we have, and this is a wonderful interaction that's going on. I hope you are also enjoying it. On the next interaction that we have, which will be soon enough, there'll be a call for the second interaction. We'll take in more questions. You can also put in your questions to me through various other channels which are available, which I have enlisted within this session. And what I could do is I can take your questions and provide some kind of a solution so that it can sort of give you some kind of a satisfaction. So the course is not started yet. I'm not very sure. Maybe it's not started. So, but whenever it starts, you can start looking at the course and start reading the course and going through the course and finding out what the course is all about. So if it's not started, let me give a brief review of what the course will do. The course starts by explaining what is engineering psychology. Then it goes to some of the physical capabilities or the physiology of humans, like the visual, the auditory, and some more physical abilities of the human, trying to do some kind of basic analysis of what these capabilities are and what the benefits are. And further on, it will try to go into the cognitive aspect and try to give you a brief view of what cognitive aspects or what cognitive systems into humans are there. And towards the fourth section, which is the fourth advanced section, what it will do is it will try to explain to you those design principles which are used by taking into account the physical capabilities and the cognitive capabilities of humans and how that should be used in designing better systems. Towards the end of the course, we talk about errors, what different kind of errors exist, and how these errors can be sort of handled using the principles of psychology. So that's what the course is about. If it's not started, I'm not very sure if it's started or not. If it's not started, then probably you can wait it to start, and then you can read about these things there and in the course, and come back again when the course starts, and we can do another meeting. As for today, I think we have had a wonderful session. And what I can do now is I can invite you to the next interaction that we have, where you can put in your questions. Thank you all for being here and putting up your wonderful questions to me and giving me this opportunity to answer those questions for you. I hope you did learn something from these answers and these interaction. We'll meet soon again in the next interaction. It's going to be very soon. Thank you all. Goodbye from the MOOC studio. Thank you for being here.